It's 9 o'clock and I'm back. Just like that. Those few days of live jazz are over. I gotta admit, I'm a little sad because music kind of inspires me and I just love live jazz. So it was a time away for me to relax. I did no work. My friend that came with me. Well, actually, she drove. She always drives. Um, she said, "You are not working," and I didn't work. I did not work. I did nothing but chill. The first day of the festival was a bit tiresome because we waited online for over 2 hours to get in the front gate. So that was a bit messy. And it was hot. It was so hot in Panama City to the point where I don't ever talk about sweating. I'm just not never been a big sweater, but I tell you, that day I could feel my body warming up. Now, no, I hadn't broken out into a sweat and having water running down. No, I wasn't one of those. Nonetheless, um there were people that were extremely, extremely hot, so water was necessary, but I always take my thermos that will stay cold for 48 hours, and I filled it up with ice. And this year, because they were so behind in getting people in the gate, that they usually make you pour out anything in there, including ice and water. They didn't even do that to me this year, and I was quite appreciative of that because it was too hot, too hot, too hot, too hot. But anyway, we got in our seats and we put our chairs down, and that was fun. And the rest of the time was people watching, and they had a little dancing, and it was so expensive in terms of food. Oh my goodness, everything was very, very expensive. But I got to see the artist who I love, Jeffrey Osborne. Every year he comes. He's good. I mean, he is good. He had the crowd on his feet. He walked through the crowd. It was just so amazing. And Damien Escobar was wonderful. This new young lady, I think her name is Erin Stevenson. Y'all look for bad young lady, can sing. Most of the time with live jazz, not everybody's interested in the vocalist. They really want to hear just the music, the instruments without vocals. So to have somebody that can really ramp up the crowd, she had to be good, and she was very good. She was considered the rising star, one of the rising stars this year. So just overall, and of course the closer was Bernie. Was Good morning, Debbie. How are you doing? Good morning. I'm talking about my 4-day vacation of live jazz, and I loved it so much. But they had Brian Culbertson on the end and Boney James just prior to him, so they closed out Sunday night beautifully, and I went back to the room extremely pleased. I probably lost a pound, just a pound, because the lines were long, so I didn't necessarily eat a lot. And then it was expensive even to buy water because water was $5, and it was like one of those small bottles of water. So that'll let you know that they made money, but it's the price you pay or the price you're willing to pay. So I was willing to pay it. I was willing to pay it. You all jazzed out, girl? No, I'm jazzed up. In fact, I listen to watercolors. If you have Sirius, I listen to watercolors all the time. You can't get in my car and change my radio station. You cannot. Occasionally, I change it to the gospel station, and something going on locally, I may change it to one of the local stations. But for the most part, no, I'm not going to do it. And it says, and you had a blast, but we did miss you. Thank you, Debbie. I missed you too. I missed you guys. I was thinking about you um, last Friday and Monday. I said, ooh, ooh. I got to get back to my folks. Got to get back and have a good time. But anyway, I have this thing today called windows. I find that there's windows everywhere. I'm looking in my house now, and I love windows because I love light. You cannot have me in a place where it looks done like a dungeon or it's a cave or there's no light. I would go crazy. And I don't know. I know, Debbie, you probably remember the caverns. They were like they were real dark, and you go down in them, and they would be really cold even in the summertime. Uh, and I used to hate going up in there because I was afraid of everything too. I know bats was hanging down in there, and they talk about the bat population. They would just do all too much. And I remember our school went to it, and I kept telling my mother I wasn't going. She's going. She said, "You going?" So I went. But did I like it? No, I did not like it. How's Cavern? That's it. How Cavern. Yes, I remember it. Yes, 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 yes. So anyway, I found this thing this morning called a poem by Ravens Bud, B-U-D, and it's called Window, because we have windows everywhere. Buildings have them. Even the courthouse has it. Even if you're in court for something, the courthouse have the hospitals have them. Okay. Now, some rooms may be on the interior, so you may not see the outside. I know when I always wanted an office, I never wanted to be in the interior of the office, because once they moved to a lot of the little sectioned off areas of offices, they made it where people just had a little cubby. Ugh, hated cubbies. I wanted my own office where I could just go in there and chill out and get my work done and not bother anybody. But it didn't always work out that way. Because sometimes you are not the top dog. So therefore, not being the top dog automatically meant that you're going to be on the inside. So I always loved it. I always had more productive work when I had my own office and I could see out the window. And so probably for the last, oh man, probably, 14, 16 years with the government, I could see outside. Good morning, Joan. Welcome back. So glad you are back. Thank you. And I had a ball. I missed you guys, but I had a ball. I ain't gonna lie. Today our word is windows. So I found this poem by Ravens Bud, B-U-D, online, and it says window. Consider the window. Window to the soul, window to the heart, perhaps. Maybe the arched window, your chance to see the outside, the fine line. The tainted glass is a divider, separating you from the outside world. As you peep through the transparent glass, things always look better on the other side. Want to be free? Open up your windows. It says, let's the sun come in. It should be let, but okay. Let's the sun come in. Raven Bud. And then I found another one by KLR. I don't know who KLR is. I'll make up a name. Kevin Leroy Royster. I gave him a name. I don't know who he is. But anyway, it says, if hearts were more like windows that we could see inside, all of our scars would be visible. No hidden truths, no lies could hide. We could spy on each other's secrets. We could peer in on our pain. If hearts were more like windows, when they cracked, we could replace the panes. So, and that's P-A-N-E-S, not P-A-I-N-S, but pun. It's probably still relatable because it could be P-A-I-N. If you could replace what's going on in there, you'd be in less pain, or it would be the pain of the window, P-A-N-E. So I like that. I like it a lot. But anyway, this morning our word is windows. And we're going to start off by, well, what is a window? What is a window? And let me ask you, are you a person who gets stuck in a house or a room where there are no windows? There's just a door. Well, I want to come over and visit. But the windows got to be visible to me, and the door has to be able to have access in and out. I don't want to go anywhere and get stuck. But anyway, so a window says it's an opening in a wall or roof of a building or a vehicle that is fitted with glass or other transparent material in a frame to admit light or air and allow people to see out. Now, what they could add to that, or in, because a window is generally something that you can look into or you can look out of. So it's an aperture, it's a casement, and it's an opening, you know. How many of you have big windows in your houses? Or you have little windows? How many have a lot of windows? Tell me a little bit about your windows in your house. I got to tell you, I have a lot. I have a lot because I like a lot of light. In fact, I made sure the area that ended my original backyard only had a sliding glass door. I didn't like it. So I built another room. Well, I didn't build anything, another room on the other side of that just to make sure that light could come in. And then I put in the other room all the windows around, you know, to make sure that the light could get in. Tons of windows. Okay. All right, Debbie. So anyway, when we break the word down, my W is for the fact is you cannot see in or out of a dirty window. So I had wash. We must wash our windows. Clean with water and typically soap or detergent, as in to cleanse, to sponge, to scrub, to wipe, to scour, to disinfect, to rinse, to dry, and to clean. You know, for us, I remember now I'm looking at my kitchen window now. It needs cleaning on the outside. The inside look good, but needs to be cleaned on the outside. So I'll get my little young friend that comes around and helps. It's my girlfriend's son. It helps his little auntie do a few things. I'm gonna ask him, will he clean up the windows and make them so they're a little shinier and I can see out better than what I am now. So anyway, that's what I have. I have W. My W is wash. What would your W be? I don't know because, you know, to be honest, when you're thinking about a window, what else, you know, I can't think of any words that would go with it. Or you can use the same one that I have when I move on. Oh, weather protection. Come on now. Watching. See, I knew if I left y'all alone, y'all come up with something. World outside. Ooh, those are all great. Those are great, great, great. When we move on in the word, my I is for illuminate because that's what light is. Make something visible or bright by shining light on it to lighten up. And I have the light. It's a light up. It's a light upon. It could be brightened because there's nothing worse to me than a dark room. So it's either going to be the natural light or it's going to be overhead light or a light on the side table. But I need light. I just need it. So it says to illuminate something is to light up, light upon, indulge. That's good. That's good. That's really good. You know, you think about when you want something to be seen, you have to make it where it's much more visible. So indulge would be good. Brighten, shine, flood with light, irradiate. You know, all of those pretty much talk about how things are done in your house. You know, you may go to somebody else's house and you can't stay there but a few minutes because it is too dark. I used to occasionally have clients that I had to go to their house and, you know, I was always worried, what's crawling up in here? That's just me. Only because my concern was the fact that no one could see anything once the door was closed, the front door. You couldn't see anything. So you didn't know if there was anything you couldn't sit on, you couldn't touch, you couldn't eat, you know, because it was too dark for you to really know what was going on in the house. My N is for like what I'm doing to that kitchen window, neglect. I have for my N, I have neglect. failed to care for properly. Makes sense to me. If I didn't get those windows washed, then I'm failing to get to it. But the weather sometimes is so weird here where, you can clean. I cleaned my car. I tell you, but that's a great story. I cleaned my car maybe 2-3 days before I went away, and no lie, the second day after the car was clean, some bird decided, okay, to let down on my car. Nasty. Yes, it was nasty. Noticeable. That's a good end too. Oh my goodness. Immediately I was like, oh my goodness. And because I got too busy before I left, I never nonchalant. Hey Maurice, how are you? How you doing this morning? That is too funny. It is nonchalant if you neglect it like I'm talking about. But anyway, the bird must have been, either he brought friends or she brought friends, or the whole family just let down. It was just so much. I'm thinking, my goodness. It was almost like it was eagle stuff. It was so big. But anyway, I was worried about it being on my car while I went away because I just didn't have time to take it to the shop, to a car wash before I left. But I thought about the fact that I had neglected my car. Neglect says fail to take care of properly, fail to look after, fail to care for, leave alone. And it was alone for 4 days. Abandoned. I did it. Uncredited for. So basically, I took no responsibility after I did it once. That the bird helped me realize that I didn't have time. I didn't have time to do it. My D, when I move on, I have divide. A window divides us from the outside world. Okay. It separates us, to be separated into parts. So that's what a window does. The door does it too. Don't get me wrong. The door does it too. But the window, we can still be inside and look out. Sometimes with the door, you cannot. Sometimes with the door, if they, like, I don't have any windows in my door. I have a side, they're called side lights. I do have my house is strange because I have a side light, but it's a one-sided side light. So it's not on both sides. Like many of the doors you buy now, they're on both sides. Mine's only on one. So anyway, it says when we divide something, it's we put a part in it. There's a split, it's separate. There's a half, and sometimes it's even in quarters. Now, some of the older windows of homes have multiple panes, which makes it where it has a window and a window and a window. And I guess back in the day, they used to take those, each pane was its own separate window. It wasn't like it was a whole sheet, which sometimes they do now, and then they just put the casing on top of it to give it a certain look, to make it, attractive in some way that the homeowners want. But for myself, when we bought, the house, it had all of these little panes everywhere, and they were all separate, and I said, wow, that's just different. So anyway, that's what I have. Daylight. Yep, because daylight can come in. You can daydream. Yes, those are all good. Thanks, Debbie and not Joan. My O, what you put for your O? Because I bet somebody has what I put for my O. Because my O is pretty simple. It makes sense to me. I think it's gonna make sense to you too. I'm not sure, but what'd you put for your O, Debbie and Joan, Maurice? But I love what you guys put earlier. Open, yes. Anybody else? Well, Joan already opened it up because I have opening. That's what a window is. It's an opening. It says opening, an aperture or a gap, meaning that if the window wasn't in there, it still would be a gap. It would be an opening. So it says it's especially one allowing access. It says it's a hole. It could be a gap, an aperture, ordeal. Yeah, ordeal is good because if somebody's out there and you in here, If they probably try to come in, they're gonna be an ordeal. I'm just kidding. Um, but I don't know. I for me, I don't know. Are your windows? Do you have security on your windows? So if you touch a window or a door in your house, would an alarm go off? So to me, an opening is good, but because there's vulnerability on anything that opens and closes, how do you protect yourself from that? So I think about each of those openings that might be in a house, and I make sure that everything, you touch a window or a door here, it just goes off and goes right to the security. It says my alarm is my house. In my house is my dog. You know what? We had a dog for years named Gucci, and Gucci was a mad dog. I don't know. He came here, during a time when my daughter was busy, still busy, but she was busy, and I'd gone through some sickness, and she just assumed that I was going like a dog. Well, I still don't like dogs. I don't have time for them because they required it like children. They require too much. So anyway, the dog, I could train the dog. So the dog was trained, and then we got along. The dog looked after me. I looked after the dog. I made sure he was walked, but he was mean. Everybody came to the door. So I put him up every time. I said, "Get in your cage." I tell him to go home. And he'd go sit in his cage, and I would lock up, and then the people would come to the door, and he'd act like he's going to tear the cage up. Crazy dog. But anyway, he was my alarm. I'm with you, Deb. He was my alarm. So anyway, when we go back to the opening, it says it's a hole, a gap, an aperture, a cavity, of entry, and means of entry. So we always have to look at how are our windows. Do they have cracks in them? Are they allowing air in and out? All of those kind of things, which saying that we're still safe, and that we're not letting energy just go out or up, upping our bills. But sometimes that's what happens. Old, yes. Sometimes we have old windows. We have old stuff. My W in windows, for me, I have a window pane. You can't have a window and it's considered to be a window pane. It's either one full sheet or it's divided, as I was speaking to earlier. So it says it's a pane of glass and a pane of a glass in a window. Opportunity. Ooh, don't start no stuff, Maurice. Talking about opportunity. That it could be, especially if somebody were, crime filled and ready, and active, then that would be true, to worry about what opportunity do we have by not safeguarding our houses with windows that lock. I have a friend in New York, and we grew up together. Well, her mother and aunt were basically attacked by someone coming in through the window, but it was one of those windows that came down from the top and came up from the bottom, and so the top portion was down some. And if you ever lived in New York or the large cities, you understand how some of the houses sometimes are so close that you can just barely get a garbage can through, but they're close. And as I said, I've heard, you could hear neighbors having discussions, because that's how close the houses were. Well, what the basically the criminal did was they put a ladder from one house to another house, and they went into my girlfriend's aunt's house and went by crawling across the ladder. So sometimes we have to be very wise about how we live and who we live next to. And windows, like Maurice was saying, is opportunity, but it's also, it's accessible. When we think about how we must protect ourselves, and And that's been years ago that happened, but it was always something that stayed with me. How are my windows? And do I have the proper security on the windows that are a part of the house that I am living in? Windowless. Wow. I never seen anybody have a windowless house, but I know that there are people that do it. They don't want any light on in there. Um, to me, I'd be depressed. I am not gonna lie. I would be depressed if I was in where I could not see the outside. I don't have to be outside, but I want to see what's out there. Wonderful. Good morning, Ardelia. Yes, wonderful is good. Whimsical, yes. Because sometimes homes have whimsical um, atmospheres that are drawn in by the windows. I had a girlfriend in New York, and she passed away a few years ago, and she could take a house and say the house was a little bit dilapidated, but she would dress the house up with her skills of knowing how to do carpentry work. She did everything you could think of, absolutely everything, to the point where you were just amazed at what it looked like originally and how it ended up looking later on. Weather is good. That's good, Joan. But it ended up that she had these windows that looked like arches and this was on an area that was like a farm area, but all of a sudden you'd ride up the road and you would see this house that looked like it stepped out of a fairy tale book. And that was her house. And it was wonderful. And the decoration, she'd take a couch off the street, and because couches back then were made well, they were not made of styrofoam and sawdust wood and all those kind of things, pressed wood. She would make it, and it was beautiful. She would take everything back down to the old couch frame, and then she'd build up for the frame and put leather on it, or different kinds of fabrics, and everybody wanted to buy it because that's how good she was. Wind is great, because we do have to be careful about how windy it is, and could it, certainly, like if we have a hurricane or a tornado, will it break our windows? So that's very good, Debbie. And weather is also the factors for both of those statements I said. So the window pane talks about it being the pane of glass, the window glass, and the sheet of glass. So those are all ways of the synonyms for window pane itself. And my last letter is S. And I put for my S, it's space. Windows allow us to see the space that we have inside, and looking outside, we can see the space outside. And we know how much space is between us and the outside. We can certainly get into that. Like I have, like a beautiful maple tree outside my kitchen window. So I love to see the various, shade and light on the leaves. When I used to, I think if you remember, when I first started, I did all of my sessions, my vlogs out of my kitchen. But then I switched up. I said, you know what? I need a new background. I need different area. And then I bought myself a light, which also gives me some visibility, that I can still do my presentations and feel comfortable while I'm doing them. So I said space, sight, security, solitude, safety. All those are wonderful. Smile, yes. All those are really, really good. For me, I put the space, it says a continuous area or expanse which is free, available, or unoccupied. When I look at the space between myself and the window, then I can go to the window and look at the space between the window and what's beyond the window out in my yard. In fact, the young man I was talking about earlier that does some yard work for me and outside stuff, he cut down all of the neighbors' tree branches, which were over on my property. And I hadn't seen my property in years on that side of my house, but he cut them all down. And I'm like, I have that much land. I couldn't see it anymore. So anyway, pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. So I would say the space is important. It's a continuous area or expanse, which is free, available, or unoccupied. It's going to be the room outside or the room inside. It's going to be the extent of what you can see through your windows, front and back. It says it's the capacity that you can acknowledge, the area that is covered, the spaciousness, the scope, the leeway, the clearance, and the gap. I always think that if I had something done, like renovations and all those kinds of things, how much more space would I have or how much less space would I have based on where I want windows? Because, I don't want my windows covered up. So how would that affect the way in which I would look at renovations? So streaks, that's all on the windows. You ain't lying. My mother used to hate for us to go up to the window and put our fingerprints on it or put our faces and our nose against the window pane. Oh, she would have a bird. The shades, yep. But, I remember shades when you went up and down on the windows. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then the certain kind of curtains. What kind of curtains do you all like on your windows? Do you like the valances? Do you like the full curtain? Like, floor to seal, well, actually the top bar, that the rod that's holding on all the way to the floor, or right to the ledge of the window? What do you like? What do you like? My preference for my kitchen is I just want a valance. And then I have the Persiana type covers inside, so I can open them up and see all of the outside without having to do any more curtains. So I have a very open concept in how I like to see my my outside. I want to see it. I don't want it to be covered, too concealed where I cannot see. But anyway, that is my section for today on windows. Windows to me are the opening of a world outside. And so even if it were that I'm just looking at my backyard, my front yard, or when I get in my car, I love just chilling with my roof open and, music on, and I'm up the road. Okay. I don't necessarily open the windows, I got to admit, because down here they have bugs and I am bugless. I do not like bugs at all, at all, at all. But I want you all to have a wonderful day. So happy that I'm back. I'm going to see you all on Friday this week. And we'll come up with another word. And if you don't do anything else, take some time today to look out your window. Look out your window. Or go outside and look in the window and see what others may be trying to see. And make it a day where windows are okay. The windows are okay. I love you guys. If you don't do anything else, hit that share button and let this message be shared to others. Who knows? There's someone out here that's just trying to have a little time with them, help them expand themselves on understanding that one word spreads into so many other words, and it's also conversation. Okay? I will see you soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Love you guys. Thank you. Bye, Deb. Bye. I'm trying to think of all the people I've seen. Joan, Maurice, Ardelia, and some others that have been in and out because I can see them on my screen. But anyway, have a wonderful day and hit the share button. Love you. Love you too, Maurice. Love all of you guys. I'll see you soon. Maurice, I see you tonight. Thank you at church. All righty, you and your wife. Bye-bye.